The recommendation from the Federal Court of Accounts for the current government to reduce the power of the armed forces commanders in defining defense policy is concerning. This measure removes from the Navy, the Army, and the Air Force the prerogative to directly influence strategic decisions involving national sovereignty. The technical knowledge and experience accumulated over decades of military training cannot be replaced by essentially political decisions shaped by partisan interests tied to government agendas. The current Brazilian president recently stated that the country needs to be prepared to face external threats. However, by weakening the role of military commanders, the government contradicts its own rhetoric. National defense requires strategic planning based on those who deeply understand the use of force, military capabilities, and the operational limits of the troops. Taking away this leading role from the military is like removing a doctor from decisions about a critically ill patient, leaving the treatment in the hands of someone without technical training. What we are witnessing could redefine Brazil's security policy in a way that may impact national defense for years. But the question that arises is, who will be responsible for defining Brazil's strategic defense plans without the active participation of the military commanders? Welcome to Vida no Quartel.
3 paratroopers died during the federal intervention. While at the Penha Alemão complex, I delivered soldier Felipe's body to his father personally, not delegating it to anyone. In the complex in Haiti in 2007, we brought peace, not just by exchanging gunfire, but by transforming things. So at that time, I had, for almost 6 months, 2,000 soldiers on the border, Christmas, New Year's, Easter. There was no 24 on, 72 off schedule. The guy was there all the time. And what was seized? Drugs. It was over 3 billion, not including unknown amounts that didn't get through. So all these sessions, they're open to the public. So I invite anyone who wants to go.
The defense of the homeland cannot be treated as a political bargaining chip. It requires technical planning, strategic vision, and autonomy for those who truly understand war and security. Removing military commanders from decision-making is opening the door to improvisation and vulnerabilities, just when Brazil should be strengthening its position in the world. The future of national defense depends on responsible choices. If the government chooses to reduce the role of the commanders, it will be weakening not only the military structure, but also the public's confidence in the armed forces' ability to respond. This measure could have lasting consequences, compromising the country's sovereignty and security. Furthermore, the military has gradually lost prominence, being devalued at their duty stations, which directly affects the daily lives of the troops. There are reports of sergeants who were transferred to inhospitable regions of the country and have been waiting for more than a decade for a spot in official military housing, known as PNR. This endless wait contrasts with the reality of commanders who live in privileged conditions, surrounded by perks such as official cars and military personnel available to serve their families, and a routine marked by benefits that never reach the rank and file. This disparity highlights a deep inequality within the institution itself, eroding morale and the sense of belonging. The situation gets even worse when you realize that today, a private in Brazil's military police receives a higher salary than a sergeant in the armed forces. It's important to highlight that police officers deserve this salary recognition and much more, as they are on the front lines against crime every day. However, the comparison exposes the devaluation of the military career, which should be honored for its strategic importance in the defense of the nation.
The former chief of the Brazilian Air Force, Lieutenant Brigadier Batista Jr., warned in an interview published today by Estadão that Brazil is facing a gradual deterioration, however, of such magnitude in its military capability that the country's armed forces are not prepared for any modern conflict. This is scandalous.
This salary disparity and the lack of resources to work have caused a real military exodus, with requests for discharge becoming increasingly frequent, from military academy students to Air Force majors. Many choose to migrate to other public service careers or to the private sector, as is the case with LATAM, which has absorbed several Air Force pilots who were seeking not only better salaries, but also more flight hours. Given that currently Brazil is rationing fuel for military aircraft and ships, this phenomenon reveals a degradation of the institutional value of the armed forces, which goes beyond the issue of salaries. This is a deliberate political process where the military is weakened and removed from major national decisions. By taking away the military's influence over the nation's course,
ao retirar dos militares sua influência nos rumos da pátria,
politicians achieve the goal of reducing the power of an institution that has historically always been the guardian of sovereignty. The result is what we're seeing today. What about you?
Come watch with me. Dangerous, audacious drug dealers are shooting at the police. Put exclusive, as Marcelão da Trabalho says.
A country plunged into chaos, fear, corruption, and violence at alarming levels, while those who could contribute to national stability and security are undervalued and marginalized in the very role they are meant to fulfill.
When public safety, as Jussara rightly pointed out, and you also mentioned this, is the point that worries voters the most, it means that voters are afraid. People are afraid in big cities, they're afraid in the countryside. It also means a failure of the Brazilian state to fight crime. Period. That's a fact.
Another serious point is the impact on esprit de corps, a fundamental principle within the armed forces. This concept involves cohesion, solidarity, and pride in belonging to the ranks, putting collective goals above individual interests. By reducing the influence of commanders, the government directly undermines this principle, creating room for political interests to override military logic. The result may be a weakening of internal trust and troop motivation, as they begin to feel undervalued in their constitutional mission. Meanwhile, violence within the country is growing at an alarming rate. The use of military-grade weapons by criminals against the population and even against the police is a clear example of how internal security is deteriorating. Despite the seriousness of this situation, the issue does not receive the proper priority from the Planalto Palace, which to this day has not launched a federal-level offensive. The government does not show any interest in reformulating public security policy, but seems more willing to take away from the armed forces the power that guarantees them autonomy and response capability. This reversal of priorities reveals a dark moment in which questionable political and legal decisions turn what once seemed wrong into something that now becomes right. The Brazilian armed forces, even though they are a regional power, fall short of the financial and technological capabilities that the country could support. Brazil has the potential to become a global military power, with voting power and influence in major global decisions. However, the lack of consistent investments and constant political interference limit this progress, keeping the country in a secondary position on the international stage. If there were greater appreciation and autonomy for the military, Brazil could consolidate a robust defense with a strong industrial base capable of exporting weapons, protecting its strategic interests, and ensuring full sovereignty. The reduction of power proposed by the TCU weakens this possibility and puts the credibility of the armed forces at risk. The country misses the chance to align its national policy with its military capability, remaining hostage to political and short-term decisions. The armed forces are state institutions, not government institutions, as they are funded by the people and have as their primary mission to defend the nation and its territory. Governments come and go, but the armed forces remain as pillars of national sovereignty. However, the military's confinement to barracks in the face of the chaos experienced in Brazil, with criminal factions increasingly dominating territories, reveals an institutional inertia that is not exclusive to the current government, but has been repeated for decades. This stance of withdrawal instead of leadership exposes a dangerous contradiction. While society cries out for security and order, those who have the training and the ability to respond remain limited by political decisions and the lack of strategic priority. The result is a country where parallel authority expands, crime grows stronger, and the population finds itself unprotected, while the institution that should be the last bastion of national defense is kept on the sidelines, as if it were merely a spectator to national disintegration.
Yellow, everyone. Character.
Come down, okay, darling?
There are children.
Tem criança!
That's right, sweetie.
Sweetie, 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 now stay here, okay? Calm down, there are children. There are children here, there are children. Go, kid, go, kid, go, kid, go, there are children here. Child here! Come. You can do it, Priscilla, go, okay? Come on, scare me now. Go. Thank you. Oh my God.
Discussing his involvement in Rio de Janeiro, I don't want the armed forces, in the favelas fighting with criminals. Isn't that the role of the armed forces? And as long as I'm president, there will be no gallows. I was elected to govern this country, and I will govern this country.
The fallacy that service members live only for the mission of serving their country clashes with the reality of family well-being, because dedication without recognition doesn't pay the bills or put food on the table. The significant drop in the number of applicants for military school entrance exams shows that the passion and dreams of young people to serve in the Army, Navy, and Air Force are being lost. The growing lack of interest shows that a military career is no longer seen as a path to prestige and stability, a direct result of institutional devaluation and lack of recognition. Once again, Brazilian politics manages to impose its logic, weakening one of the most important institutions of the state and distancing new generations from a commitment that should be a source of national pride. The recommendation from the TCU, therefore, should be viewed with caution. Reducing the power of military commanders does not strengthen democracy, but rather weakens national defense. Brazil needs a balance between politics and technical expertise, ensuring that the interests of the nation are above any partisan agenda. Only in this way will it be possible to build a sovereign nation, respected and prepared to face the challenges of the present and the future. Leave your thoughts about the armed forces in the comments and join the discussion.
A good shooter must have discipline. Self-control is essential. Bye.
A good hunter must have decision-making ability.
Precision always. Hunter.
Leave a like, subscribe, and watch the videos that are appearing on your screen. Forward fighters, see you next time.